Christian, when people hit us up that want to be on the show, you know what I ask them? Show me your trophy cabinet. You know what I mean? And if it ain't got at least a World Cup, I don't want you on here.
Right.
But that is not a problem with this guest, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only Julie Foudy, everybody.
The 99er herself, Julie Foudy. What's up? How you doing?
I think I fall into the rookie category, right?
Okay,
Not the other ones.
Well, maybe you know what? I mean, you've been in the media game for a long time as well, so we couldn't call you a rookie there. I mean,
rookie at the media game too.
But this is definitely, we're much more peers in this industry versus anything I've done on the pitch or
we
Alex.
Couldn't tie your boots on the pitch, but off the pitch, hey, all right, we can talk, we can get with the best of them. You stepped in the podcast game. Welcome to the party, Julie Foudy. Has it been a party?
A new pod, yeah. How's it going with that?
A new pod. The Welcome to the Party pod is so much fun. When I was doing a pod with ESPN called Laughter Permitted for years, and then I just recently am no longer with ESPN, and Abby came up to me, Wambach, a former soccer player as well and teammate, and was like, "Hey, do you want to do a women's sports podcast?" and at the time she asked me, I was sitting next to, true story, Billie Jean King, having a conversation with her in this really weirdly quiet moment. You never get quiet moments with the Kinger, I call her. She's a dear friend, because everyone wants a piece of Billie Jean all the time. So I just happened to be sitting with her and her wife at an Angel City game pregame in this suite with no one else there with us, talking about podcasting and Billie wanting to get into podcasting. And Abby, the puppy that she is all the time, she just comes like bounding up and was like, "You want to do a podcast?" and I looked at Billie like, "Oh my God, this is so crazy." And that's literally the origin story of our Welcome to the Party. So it's me, Abigail, I call her, or Mary, her real name. Did you know her real name was Mary?
No. What? Yeah. I feel like I've been lied to for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Wait,
Can
what?
you see Abby Wambach as a Mary, by the way? Is she Mary?
Mary
Wambach
Wambach doesn't scare me airily. Abigail Wambach, kinda. Abby Wambach? I'm not even jumping.
Mary Wambach. So the Kinger, Billie Jean, myself, and Abby launched this new podcast called Welcome to the Party, and it's all women's sports. The party being women's sports, and it was kind of the idea of like, whether you've been at the party a long time like us, or you're new to the party, everyone's welcome. And it's just been, and it really is a party vibe. We kind of like take the cooligan fun, right? Like.
Without our permission? How dare you?
Fun is ours.
Actually, hold on. Let's get our lawyer on the call.
We own fun.
Can our lawyer come in the room, please?
No. And you know what? And what
we're actually changing our name to Welcome to the Fiesta. It's about time.
We're gonna have some competition in the Spanish market. But compared to, I'm so I can also speak for my wife. A huge fan of Abby.
Mary. Just say Mary.
Obviously, it's Mary now. Mary and Glennon's podcast. We can do hard things. Yeah. And that is I would imagine it's Welcome to the Party. The complete opposite of the tone, the energy. I appreciate Abby and Glennon's podcast because there's obviously very important conversations, deep conversation, but you can tell there's just a sort of weight lifted. I'm like, I don't have to talk about my feelings with Julie Foudy. Let's do this.
She actually said, Abby was like, look, those were like 400 and something episodes I did of like really impactful stuff, but I cannot wait to get to the party. So that she did say that it's a lot lighter. So, and she's still doing both. So she gets she gets a little taste of the deep, heavy, and then she comes to this party.
All right. What else? I mean, you mentioned you did a podcast with ESPN. We don't count those, all right? When you're already getting paid a salary and they tell you, could you also talk on this microphone?
God, don't even get me started on that, Alexis. Yeah,
you are now... Oh, by the way, we assume you got paid a salary.
I'm not even sure, actually.
So. They probably paid you to use the ESPN name. But now that you're independent and you're doing a podcast independently, even though, yes, you're doing it with Billie Jean King, which we're going to find out her name is, Terry after this. and Mary Wambach, you're doing it with superstars. You're a superstar. It's a little different, right? You're independent. it feels different. Now you can just text people, hop on.
Totally.
You can do it on your own schedule. Do you work better when you're doing it independently, or do you work better when there's like 7 producers who are very badly paid texting you nonstop to hop on a Zoom link?
Our producer who formerly worked at ESPN might be weighing in.
Yeah.
He is dying right now.
Hey, look, nothing against ESPN. They were very good to me for a very large number of years. I worked there for 20 years, but to be able to go to the sponsors you want to go to, for example, obviously sponsorship is a huge piece of it with podcasting, and we had no control over that.
I just want to make sure we get
I need a soundboard. This is what I need. You are reinforcing that right now, Alexis.
I'm going to be honest. You with a soundboard would be dangerous because the intro to the Laughter Permitted was always insane. I can't imagine you with a soundboard. But
wait, give me like, you must have like a whoopee cushion, right?
No, we have like this.
That's one of those.
Oh, come on.
I mean, it's not 1963, Julie Foudy.
Also,
that's my Halloween outfit.
Our show was almost called Farting Permitted. We don't need a whoopee cushion
I call it Welcome
sound.
to the Farty. Oh my God.
Yeah. Me and Christian are prepared to fart at all times. I don't know how much my underwear is.
Speak for yourself. I mean, I provide a different thing to this program, not necessarily.
He'll tell you that. His wife makes him eat super healthy. And the kid's ready to fart. He's nothing but Brussels sprouts.
Oh, asparagus. No thanks. Okay, so I think back on track. I think that the independence actually is very liberating because you can also talk about what you want and you can hit on things you want. I mean, we could be like, well, and also it helps to have Billie Jean King and Abby as your 2 podcast partners because like you basically can text anyone in the world and they're like, okay, we want to come on. I mean, and getting guests is a hustle, as we know, right? So it's been super fun and it's just fun. Like Abby and I and Kinger laugh so hard all the time, and we really wanted to show as well. And honor Billie Jean King in this space. Obviously, she has run the women's sports world for the last 4 decades, and she's the thread that runs through all of it. But giving her a space on a consistent basis to share her stories and her wisdom and who she is in a different light than people typically see is also really fun for us.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I read Brianna Scurry's autobiography maybe last year, I believe.
Yeah, really good.
I think she spoke about her a little bit, but just hearing how so many of those players in the U.S. men's national team talk about Billie Jean King and how she kind of paved the way is. I mean, you can hear just in the emotion in your voice of, if I let you keep going, loved, she is very much appreciated.
Yeah, she was actually, I say, the catalyst that started our equal pay fight with the women's national team. And a lot of people don't know that story, right? Like back in the 90s, she was the one who came in and said, hey, this needs to be better. What are you doing about it, Foudy? And I was like, I don't know. So
I'm 20.
Yeah, I'm like 22. Yeah. I'm just, trying to stay on the team. So she stayed with us for years and years and years, just advising and as a mentor. And, we never got in my generation to equal pay. We were fighting for more equitable pay, but, the next generations did. They carried that over the finish line, and that was huge. But she was really the start of it all.
And I was going to say, this is where I want to get to. Let's talk about money because it's getting serious right now in women's professional sports, especially women's soccer. You obviously are wearing the Angel City shirt, one of the owners as well. Alyssa Thompson. It's as fans of NWSL, it's difficult to see very good players leave and play anywhere else. And she's doing well at Chelsea. She just drew a red card from another player who pulled her hair, which was also kind of wild. But there was a lot of conversation. Her leaving, and I think triggered a lot of conversation about the NWSL salary cap and should we have it, and so that we can keep those great players here. Obviously, it's very difficult for a player like that to leave your team. But what are your thoughts on kind of how it all unfolded and where kind of we are when it comes to money and competing leagues in women's soccer?
Do you see these puffy eyes of mine? This is over Alyssa leaving.
Right.
I'm still weeping. And I get it. I support her, of course, going, because I do think playing Champions League, playing in a different country, all of it, right? I get the appeal of it. Obviously, a larger salary, more money, all those things. And so I don't, I wish her nothing but the best. But it's so hard for NWSL when she's your star on your team. She's a star in the league. And, you know, right now, I think that's going to be an issue for NWSL is how are we retaining and keeping our biggest names? It's absolutely an issue. And we've talked a lot about the salary cap, you know, over the years. And I think one of the things they're going to have to, and I say this as an owner as well, but we're going to have to reckon with is we're going to continue to lose players to Europe, especially now with, and this is no fault of Emma Hayes at all, but Emma Hayes knows the importance of getting a diversity of tactics and play and different countries and different players, right? And she had, prior to becoming the U.S. Women's National Team coach, thought that more should be playing abroad. And I think she's going to support it in a way that's healthy. If you want to do it, she's going to support a player doing it. Whereas I think coaches in the past, whether it was overt or not, were a little more vocal about staying closer to home. And mind you, as you get into these gap years when you have no World Cups or Olympics, obviously the pull from across the pond is much stronger because you don't have to keep going back and forth as much. But I think they're going to have to, we're going to have to, as a league, address the salary cap. And I mean, I look back to MLS and what they're doing and what they've done with designated players. And maybe that's a solution to it rather than abolishing the cap altogether, because I do think the cap obviously has brought some stability. It's brought parity amongst the teams. One thing that, as good as the WSL is, the Women's Super League over in England, they don't have that same parity, which is something that all players talk about here, right? That, you know, so many teams are in the chase still. So, but could you create, can you hit some levers that say, okay, let's maybe keep the cap intact, and we know it's raising to over 5 million in the next 5 years. I don't think that's enough, honestly. But could you then bring in designated players, and maybe it's not just 3, it's 5, it's 7, where they come in at a fixed rate on the cap. It doesn't count against the cap, and you can pay them what you want, as we've seen with MLS. And it's not just for foreign players or international players, it's for domestic as well. Trinity Rodman, Sophia Wilson, both becoming free agents in 2026 could be a big problem. And I don't know if that's going to be able to be enacted in time, as you know, these teams in Europe who have no restraints on their spending are coming after them. And that's a problem. Absolutely.
What do you stand to gain something? And when I say you, I mean the league, right? Women's soccer in the U.S., NWSL in particular. Do you stand to gain something from building these superstars that go and have sabbaticals in Europe and eventually do come home, right? There's a lot of back and forth, which I think is a big positive, because you learn something different in Europe than you'll learn here and vice versa, right? European players coming to play here. Do you gain something from being able to maybe put a high value marker on some of these players? It's like, all right, you're going to go play in Europe for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Go enjoy another country. You deserve it. You're going to go get paid a lot more money than maybe we can give you right at this moment because of the cap. But we're going to get X amount of dollars for that contract that we wouldn't have been able to do maybe 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe you'll get $1 million. Maybe you'll get $3 million. Maybe you'll get $5 million for some of these players. Trinity Rodman should be valued at a very high number if she were to go to Europe. Do you think you stand to gain something from that?
You do, but in the end, players are what I think ultimately are the drivers of success in a league, right? They're the drivers of revenue. They're the drivers of attendance. They're the drivers of viewership. And so if you are losing so many stars to Europe, and they're all over there, and we can go through the list that have gone over there, right? Obviously, Haran, or Heaps, as we now know her, has been there for a while. Crystal Dunn is back over there. you go down the list of the ones at Chelsea, Katerina Macario, who never really came to the NWSL in the first place. She went straight to Europe. So Naomi Gurma we lost. But if you keep losing them, at what stage does this league, this NWSL, retain some stars? And yes, we're going to build new stars for sure. But it is an issue when you look across the board and go, okay, who do we have from the U.S. side in particular that we could keep, right? Mallory Swanson, of course, out with pregnancy. Sophia Wilson out with pregnancy. Trinity Rodman's been out most of this year with injury. And so I do think that we have to provide more incentive, and we are going to lose some. There's no question, Alexis. I think I would have gone and played in Europe, right? If I had that opportunity to do that, even regardless of the money. I actually did. I went to Sweden and there was no money in it just because I wanted to explore Europe, right? So that's going to happen for sure. But I just think we have to provide more incentive for them to stay, because players are what drive success. There's no question about it. And a lot of them want to stay, I'm sure, but it's hard to, say no to an extra comma in there.
Yeah.
And when you look at that salary,
and it does, especially after the Olympics, it does feel like they're, especially with Alyssa Thompson, Trinity Rodman, even what they do on the pitch has been fantastic. And Alyssa Thompson's growth in just this last year has been like, wow. So she's really growing into like a more of a leadership role on the team before she left. And then the TikToks, the dancing.
She got him to do it right away,
Giselle,
didn't she?
She was just like, I'm a champion. I'm a gold medalist. Let me go do my TikTok thing, and taking over TikTok by storm. And then Trinity Rodman, and then the power couple of Ben Shelton. I'm like, they're doing everything right. They can't leave now. We can't lose them now.
I know. I thought with, her younger sister at the club, right? She's only 20 years old. She just signed another contract. And, all those things working in what we thought the NWSL's favor.
Some of those meetings, I'm sure the meetings were like, you're going to leave your sister. You're going to leave your sister behind.
You're really going to do this?
I wouldn't do that. I care about my family, but you do you,
How much to leave your family? Okay. I mean, everybody has a price. I don't want
my Thanksgiving to be weird, but I guess you don't care about that, so go ahead.
No judgment. No judgment space.
No. It's all business.
Yeah. Hey, I don't judge. I'm just saying. I think one of my other question, I know we spoke about this a while ago, but the realm has changed, right? The world that NWSL plays in is so different. USL has a top flight women's league, right? Northern Super League is starting up. There's seemingly more and more competition. We've talked about this before as well. In Latin America, Mexico in particular, seems to be taking the women's game so much more seriously. Yeah. And they've really seen, especially some of the big teams, really seem to be seeing value in investing in the women's side. Do you think this is good for the women's game? Or do you kind of look at maybe the WNBA and go, man, if you could really just focus all of your efforts on one league and its superstars, you can really make leaps and bounds as you grow? Or do you think the world of soccer needs all of that other competition?
It's a great question. I actually think it's healthy. I think it's healthy having all of this. I think the USL and having that competition drives NWSL to be more innovative. It drives them to be more creative in terms of how they're building out their growth strategy. It drives them to raise their salaries, right? And salary cap, hopefully, eventually. And I think a deeper pool of players and more players able to play at the professional level and get paid to do it is a really good thing. I know Emma Hayes would be like, heck yes, this is great. I get all these players that I can then, call upon, and a deeper pool, as she always says, means you can make a deeper run with the United States women's national team. So I do think they help each other. And that it's good for the women's game. And as we know, right, like investment in the women's game globally, to your point, Alexis, whether it's in Mexico, in Europe, we're seeing that it's happening everywhere. And the numbers coming back they're just going to keep rising. And so that's where I think as a league in this country, we have to stay with that pace.
Yeah. Speaking of the national team, I mean, the Emma Hayes, I think, definitely revitalized this team and brought something very exciting. I'm curious. This is something interesting to me, and I know your history with the national team, obviously, and equal pay fight. It's almost impossible to divide the sport you're playing with the politics around it, with about equity and equality. I'm curious about what being a national team player when the country is just going through a lot, right? Whether it's ICE, whether it's just people disliking the administration, and all this stuff. When you put on the badge and you're wearing the shirt and you're sort of dealing with like that, it has nothing to do with the sport, but it's clearly like you're facing someone, an opponent that's like probably is a little bit more into this game because they don't like the U.S. for this particular reason, and that's been throughout the Olympics, World Cups. It's something that comes up with either particular players or on the or people are upset at the administration. But when you're sort of dealing with that, is it something to ignore? Is it something to discuss with your teammates? How does that sort of work when you're representing the national team?
Yeah, well, it wasn't nearly as divisive as it is now when I was playing. So there weren't, although I can remember waking up every morning having arguments about guns and NRA, and whether that was a good thing or not, with teammates back in the day. But I mean, the level we're at obviously now is a different level. And I think I would be making an assumption for this current team because I'm not in the locker room. I'm not at their meals when, a lot of these discussions are happening. But it's probably something that it's like you regardless of where you fall on the spectrum with what's happening in the United States, you still love your country. Mm-hmm. You still, when you put on the red, white, and blue, you're going to fight for your country and you're going to play for your country. And it's an honor that is like nothing else to be able to say I'm playing for the United States of America. And so I think they do it with the same amount of pride, and who knows what those conversations are about in the locker rooms. And I'm guessing they happen for sure because we're humans and we want the best for this country. But you always know when you throw it on the jersey, like you've got to represent it with the utmost respect and honor for your country.
Okay.
Yeah, and you won Olympic gold. And we've talked about this. We've talked about the Olympics and just sort of how awestruck you get when you're in those moments. A lot of young players are starting to come through, and it felt like maybe we've been with the 99ers for so long. It felt like, man, you guys had like a 20-year playing career in international because it just felt
stop.
like yeah.
What?
We just felt like we
Isn't
constantly
Foudy
heard
like
your names.
50 years old by now?
Yeah. Like they won't leave the pitch. But it feels like every time the women's team suits up, there's 3 or 4 new players. Yeah. Do they know enough to reach out to you and maybe get a little bit of guidance, maybe get some wise words of wisdom from you? Or do you ever get that opportunity to share that? And what do you say to someone? How do you explain to someone like, yo, it's crazy, bro? There's like people everywhere.
Well, I do love that Emma has been so bullish on bringing in younger players and just broadening the pool and deepening the pool. I mean, that's been a big, big objective of her and her staff. Which I think is so needed and was so needed. And Emma is like is so good at coming in with an outsider's view when she came over from Chelsea in England and saying, okay, and this is where she's brilliant and she's brilliant in a lot of different ways. So, but this one where she comes in and she looks at the federation, she looks at the national teams, and she looks at the whole system of national teams, from youth national teams to the senior national team to the under 23s, kind of in the middle there, and immediately puts her finger right on the issues. Is amazing. She'd be like, why do we have so many gaps with the under 23s? Why aren't we doing more training? Why is our pool not stronger? Why ask?
You hear that, Marisa Pochettino? Okay, just making sure.
She came in and so quickly identified the issues and the gaps and was like, here is where we're going to put our focus. And bringing in those younger kids, there was a point, mind you, where we were like, do we have the younger kids coming through? Are we developing the kids in the right way? Because we're seeing Spain winning everything, Japan winning everything, North Korea winning everything. And our youth national teams on the women's side were not doing well. And what Emma has done is reinforce the fact that, yeah, our pipeline, yes, as messy and messed up as it can be, and it's still producing players because we just have the volume in this country. We have millions of girls playing. So, do I get a chance to give them some feedback? I do not. I don't ever walk up to young kids and be like, "Hey, can I tell you about my days in the '99
do you know who I am?
18th century? Do you want it?" We did have electricity and toilets. There was running water. Screens were not
pterodactyls were flying overhead.
But the nice thing about broadcasting and doing all the U.S. Women's National Team games is that you keep a foot in the door in terms of just relationships with the players, with the team. You're constantly talking to the players and Emma and that group. And so you stay connected in that ways. And so, yes, there's always opportunities where a player will ask something about, the World Cup we won when they weren't even born. That's really a great feeling. But yeah, it's fun that I stay connected to the players that way.
I was 2 years ago, I played in TST and I was doing a bunch of interviews as well while I was there. And obviously the U.S. women won both years, but I got to talk to Michelle Akers, and she's done the show before, but it was the first time in person. It was the first time I saw her kind of just walking around.
Right.
And just getting stopped for photos, and I mean it's even for me. I remember being a kid watching. I remember when you guys won. You guys were on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. I remember that because I used to love. That's how I got into comedy. I mean, Jay Leno's not my comedic hero, but Jay Leno was someone who I used to watch a lot of late night shows, and I remember vividly that moment because a lot of my memories through sports and everything were seeing guests on late night shows, and it was great to see it in person because so when I was interviewing Akers, I was part of me in even thinking about the questions I was going to ask. I'm like, part of me is like, is she tired of talking about 99? Is she tired? I mean, I think about that with you as well. Like, I understand. I love hearing it. Are you guys tired of talking about it? Because
Never tired.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I still talk about it. I wasn't even there, bro. I'm like, I was just watching.
No, there'll come a day when I can't even remember it. So no, I don't get. Wait, 1999? What happened?
No, it was great to witness because it's something even with everything like the fight that you guys put up for equal pay and all the history, it's like part of it's like history can repeat itself if people kind of forget what you guys did, but there must be some pleasure in maybe even a little bit of envy of like, man, I wish I was getting paid that when when I was playing. But there must be some joy in being like, we kind of built what all these new players, like Alyssa Thompson being able to get that amount of money kind of probably doesn't happen without all your guys' efforts.
Yeah. I mean, I think we played a part in the history and role of developing the game for this country. And so we take a lot of pride in that. And then when you see these big monumental things happen, like when they did get equal pay, I mean, the 99ers thread was just, I mean, the swearing in terms of yes, like this is what we were fighting for so long. And it's so great to see that next group was able to keep up the fight and then take it over the line, which is the hardest thing. So I think it's just immense pride is what you feel mostly. So, and that, when we won the Olympics in 2024, this last one, when we had not done well in the prior World Cup, had not done well in the Olympics before that, the Tokyo Games, and to see the U.S. back on top, it's like, yes, this is where we belong. So I think it's all kind of these full circle moments. They're almost like this maternal, like, your baby's doing okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about retro equal pay?
Oh yeah, believe me, we've asked about that. Do you go back to the 18th century on that too?
How far are we going back in this lawsuit, by the way?
The last thing before I let you go, because I I was watching the episode of Welcome to the Party with Rebecca Lowe, and I really enjoyed this because you were talking about, as sport parents and sport moms and how to deal with your kids. So I have a 2-year-old who's kicking the ball already, and
oh gosh,
so
good luck.
We'll see.
Not doing bicycle kicks yet, Christian. You're behind.
Not yet. There's
So he's really failing. As
when you're scrolling, you watch those like TikTok parents, and they're like doing drills with their 1.5-year-old, and I'm like, oh my god, do I have a failure? Have I failed my child already?
My kid when my kids were 5. People were like, they're not in soccer yet. What is wrong with you as a parent?
Especially as you, Julie.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
How's your kid playing in the U4s? And you're like, the U4s.
I love the episode because there was the do's and don'ts of sport parents and
because Rebecca Lowe has a 9-year-old Teddy who's just getting into it, and she's so funny on Instagram. She's constantly like, I don't know, do I have to bring all these things to a game? What am I supposed to be doing here?
I love it.
People roll up in wagons.
She's there on the sidelines with like her big sun hat. And like looking like just not like a standard American sport parent or whatever.
American sports parenting is very different, I'm sure, than English sports
she's
parenting.
like, in England, they're like, yeah, whatever, do your thing. She's like, here? Yeah. Oh my God. So we told her in that episode, we said, okay. She's like, I miss a lot of games on the weekends, of course, because of my job. She does English Premier League stuff for NBC, of course. And she goes, so I try and go to every practice. And Abby was like, you can't go to every practice. That's not allowed. She was, I know, but I miss the weekends. She's like, no, 1 practice a week. That is it, Rebecca. So last week, don't tell Mary, Abigail Wambach this. She texts me and she sends me a picture of her sitting at practice. She's like, don't tell Abby.
And it's interesting. I can understand, and I understood Abby's response because on her podcast she was talking about her parents and how bad she would feel sometimes at practices by either criticism or anything. So you can. Especially you two in particular that have such a history with the game and such a like foundational importance to the American game. You guys didn't get here without some trauma. And that's why I love.
Oh, believe me, I got a lifetime of scars. And I've got a lifetime of scars from watching my kids play. Now I'm like, God, I told my younger kid, you're going to have to quit sports. We're done with this. I can't do this anymore.
Is it harder to watch them play or is it like playing in a World Cup final?
Harder to watch them play. My kid's at Oregon now playing soccer, University of Oregon, and they're it's a new coach, new year, and they're not winning a ton of games, and so it's just like every game you're like, oh God.
It must be hard to not give notes. You're like, you know what I would have done? And by the way, I won a couple trophies. I would. I don't know if you see this.
Can we talk
medal.
about the formation we're working on right now?
Do your kids, are they open to hearing any advice or criticism or coaching at all from you, or are they just tired of it?
My daughter, who is the soccer player, the freshman at Oregon, when she was like a freshman in high school, was like, no more. Zip it. And we were like, okay. So we stopped for like 4 years. And then by her senior year, when she was, going off to college, she's like, okay, now I'm ready for it again. Okay. And my son is a football and American football and basketball player. And so of which I really can't give him much advice. And when I do, he just kind of looks at me and laughs. I'm like, okay, I know these things though, He's like, yeah, Mom.
I would love to see Mama Foudy at the sideline of an American football game going, these are all red cards. You're all out of the game. Stop hitting my son. Let's start there. My last question for you is, it blows my mind that women's boots were kind of just thought of in recent history, that y'all had to play with men's boots for forever.
Men's everything, Alexis. Sleeves down to my wrists.
That's my next question. Because I'm also sick and tired of the women's jersey with the deep V and the cut inside. It's like, bro, maybe my wife don't want to wear that. Maybe honest, she just wants to wear regular jersey.
From the last World Cup, last World Cup, I got gifted a U.S. Women's National Team jersey, the women's cut. Fit really nice on me.
He snatched in it.
You're svelte then.
I'm
yeah, dude.
These love handles. These love handles do not do well in And
No,
sometimes
are you
the
kidding me?
tighter women
I need a
fit, I'm like,
sundress.
whoa.
A USWNT sundress for Alexis.
I need a sundress. I need it to go out from
Angel
here.
City keeps giving me these small women's jerseys, and I'm like, I literally have to be like, okay.
My question is, what needs to change next? What needs to be female specific in the women's game? I can't believe shoes we just thought of, but what's next?
This is a great question. This is another thing that Emma immediately was like, hey, this is another gap that we need to fix. And she didn't just start this with the U.S. Women's National Team, but she's done it also at Chelsea as well, is research on women's issues, right? Menstruation and how that's affecting ACLs, research on why women have so many ACL injuries, research on, the load they should be carrying based on the hormonal differences that happen during menstruation, things like that, that often in research, as we know, that has happened for a very long time, over decades, it's done with a men's body, with men's data, and isn't relatable to a woman's body. And so we're finally getting to a point where people are talking about, well, what does that mean for a female athlete? And so looking at it from a women's lens and all different levels and areas beyond science as well is going to be something I hope. And of course, we've done it with merch, sometimes too far, but we can now do it with science and data that actually impacts women in a really healthy way.
Yeah,
back in the day, was a scientist smoking a cigarette going, we studied 100 men and none of them have issues while menstruating.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
get out there, ladies.
The guy who led that study, RFK Jr. He's on it.
Yeah.
He's gonna figure it all out.
Yeah, you have your
Just don't take
menstruation. Would you take a
Tylenol.
vaccine?
Everyone, no Tylenol. Okay.
Yeah.
Julie Foudy, always an honor. Thank you so much for joining us, for permitting us to laugh with you for a couple minutes. And everybody go check out Welcome to the Party, the new podcast with Abby Wambach, Julie Foudy, and Billie
what's
Jean
the
King.
social media? Let them know, where can they see the clips?
What's that? You can see.
Where's the social media for
Welcome to
the
Party
podcast?
Show on Insta,
Okay.
TikTok,
very nice.
YouTube. Welcome to the Party Show. It's a lot of fun. So and
Yeah.
you guys are a lot of fun. Congrats on all you're doing. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
covering
much.
the game in such a great way.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah,
Thank you. That
this
means a
never it never gets any less surreal to be able to talk to people like you and obviously other legends of the women's national team. This is just a really absolute treat for us. So thank you so much for doing it.
Thanks, guys.